The emergency service call came in at 11:47 p.m. on the hottest night of the year. A woman's voice. Breathless. My AC just died, and it's 90 degrees in here. Can you come now? I'll pay double. I should have said no. Midnight service calls were always complicated. But I was 3 months behind on rent, and double pay sounded like a lifeline. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 33 years old, doing emergency HVAC repairs at midnight. After my dad's business went under and he had a stroke, I'd taken over just me. One van, one set of tools. The heat wave had been brutal. 5 days over 95 degrees. I'd been running non-stop. My hands were cut from sheet metal. My back ached. But the money was good. The address led to a renovated warehouse in the arts district. 4th floor, no elevator. I hauled my tool bag up, feeling every stare. She stood in the doorway. Mid-40s. Tall, dark hair in a messy bun, strands sticking to her neck with sweat, thin tank top and running shorts. No bra. I tried not to notice. Olive skin glistening. "I'm Diane," she said. "Thank you for coming. Ryan. Where's the unit?" The loft was open concept. Art everywhere. Easily 85 degrees. The unit was in a utility closet. I knelt, opened the panel. Diane stood close behind me. "How long's it been out?" 3 hours. I tried everything. I tested the capacitor. "Dead. Your capacitor's blown. 250 total." She didn't hesitate. "Done." I went to my van. When I came back, Diane had removed her tank top, just sports bra and shorts now. "Sorry," she said. "It's just so hot." I swapped the capacitor. 12 minutes. Cold air started flowing. "Oh my God," Diane said. "You're a magician." She stepped close, held her hand to the vent. "I could kiss you." "That would make this weird," I said. "Ryan, it's 12:30 a.m. I'm in my sports bra, and you just saved me. I think we're past normal boundaries." Still, she echoed. "You're right." But Diane asked if I wanted water, and I was thirsty, and the apartment was finally starting to cool down, and somehow we ended up sitting on her couch, two sweaty people catching their breath. "How long have you been doing this?" she asked. "HVAC? 7 years. Took over my dad's business after he got sick. Is he okay now?" "Alive. Mostly functional. Lives with my sister in Jersey." I drank water, watching condensation run down the bottle. "How long have you had this place?" 3 years. Bought it after my divorce. Needed something that was mine. You know? I know the feeling. We sat there, the comfortable silence stretching between us. The AC hummed steadily, temperature dropping degree by degree. 78, 76, 74. Cold air washed over us from the vents. I watched condensation form on my water bottle, tracking the droplets as they ran down the plastic. Anything to avoid looking at her. At the way her hair was starting to dry in waves around her face. At the curve of her shoulder, where a bra strap should be, but wasn't. I should leave. Should definitely leave. Pack my tools. Say goodnight. Be professional. That's what 7 years in this business had taught me. There's always a line, and you never cross it. But I didn't move. Neither did she. The silence grew heavier, charged with something unspoken. I could hear my own heartbeat. Could hear her breathing. Slow and steady. The city noise from outside, distant sirens, car horns, the hum of traffic felt like it was happening in another world. "Can I ask you something?" Diane said finally. "Sure. Do you ever, when you do these late-night calls, do you ever have situations that are not just about the AC?" I knew what she was asking. Sometimes people are grateful. Sometimes lonely. Sometimes both. "And what do you do?" "Leave. Every time. I'm not here for that." "That's very professional. It's the only way to do this job." She was quiet for a long moment. "The thing is, Ryan, I haven't touched another person in 8 months. And I'm sitting here in my sports bra with a stranger who just saved me from this heat. And you're kind and careful, and your hands are scarred from doing something real. And I can't stop thinking about how easy it would be to just cross that line you're talking about." My mouth went dry. "Diane, I know. You're professional. You have boundaries." She smiled shakily. I'm not propositioning you. I'm just being honest about what I'm feeling. Is that okay? It's okay, I managed. But I should still go. Before we both do something we might regret. You're right. She stood up, but slowly, reluctantly, like she was giving me one last chance to change my mind. Let me get my wallet. What do I owe you? $250. She went to her bedroom. I deliberately didn't watch her walk away and came back with cash. $300. Keep the change. You earned it. It's too much. You came at midnight. Climbed 4 flights. Fixed my AC when I was melting. It's not enough. She handed me the bills, her fingers brushing mine. The touch lingered a second longer than necessary. Neither of us pulled away immediately. Thank you, Ryan. Really. You're welcome. I packed my tools slowly, giving the apartment and myself time to cool down. Every movement deliberate. Buying time I didn't know I wanted. My wrench went into the bag. My multimeter. My flashlight. I could feel Diane watching me from the kitchen island, drinking water, and I could feel her eyes tracking me across the room like a physical touch. You're very careful with your tools, she said. They're expensive, and I need them to work. I zipped the bag, still not looking at her. That's not what I meant. She set down her water bottle. You touch them like they matter, like they're an extension of you. It's attractive. The way you work, the way your hands move. Diane, I know. Boundaries. But she didn't look away. Can I ask you one more inappropriate question? You can ask, if I hadn't been a client. If we'd met somewhere normal, would you have been interested? I turned to face her. Yes. Immediately. Good. She smiled sadly. That makes this easier and harder. At the door, she leaned against the frame. If it breaks again, can I call you? That's what the card's for. Just for AC emergencies? Or can I call for other reasons? Every instinct screamed to shut this down. But I heard myself say, call me for any reason. I'll answer. Good. Drive safe, Ryan. I made it halfway down the stairs before I stopped. Gripping the railing, breathing hard. Every instinct said, go back. I kept walking. Down to my van. Sat there 3 minutes, staring at the building. Then, I drove away. That decision would haunt me for exactly 3 days. 3 days. That's how long I lasted. It was 10 p.m. Thursday. I was home, eating leftover Chinese food, when her name lit up my screen. Ryan? It's Diane. The AC's making a weird noise. Like grinding. Is that bad? Could be. When did it start? An hour ago. I can come by tomorrow morning. It's supposed to be 98 tomorrow. Any chance you could come tonight? I should have said no. I can be there in 45 minutes. When Diane answered the door, she was in a silk robe. Hair down this time, damp like she'd just showered. The robe was short, barely mid-thigh, and loosely tied at the waist. I could see the curve of her collarbone where it fell open, the shadow between her breasts. Sorry about the outfit, she said, stepping back to let me in. I was trying to cool down before bed. I wasn't expecting you to get here so fast. I wasn't far. Just finished a call in Brooklyn. It wasn't true. I'd been in Queens. Had driven like a maniac to get here because some part of me knew this wasn't really about the AC. The apartment was cool, 70 degrees, comfortable. The AC was running smoothly, and I didn't hear any grinding. Just the steady hum of a perfectly functioning system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Show me where the sound's coming from, I said, even though I already knew the answer. She led me to the utility closet. We stood there in the small space, listening. The unit ran smoothly, perfectly silent except for the normal operational hum that every AC makes. I let the silence stretch, counted to 30 in my head, then 60. Gave her every opportunity to admit what this really was. Still nothing but smooth, quiet operation. It stopped, she said finally, not looking at me. When? Maybe. 20 minutes ago? Now she looked at me. Or maybe it never started. Maybe I just wanted to see you again and I'm 46 years old and apparently I've forgotten how to ask someone on a date like a normal person. I turned to look at her. We were close. Diane. What? Is there actually a problem with your AC? She met my eyes. The moment stretched. Then, no, there's not. Then why am I here? Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you for 3 days. Because I'm 46 years old and apparently very bad at this. Because you were kind and professional, and I thought maybe she stopped. This was a mistake. I should have left. Instead, why me? What do you mean? You're beautiful. Successful. You live in a loft in the arts district. Why call the HVAC guy back with a fake emergency? Why not just, I don't know, use a dating app like everyone else? She stepped closer, and we were suddenly inches apart in the small closet. Because dating apps are full of men my age who are either divorced and bitter or never married and weird about it. Because the art world guys are pretentious and exhausting. Because the last 3 first dates I went on, the men spent the entire time either mansplaining my own industry to me or asking if I had work done. Another step. Now we were close enough I could smell her shampoo, something floral. Jasmine, maybe. Because you were kind to me when I was desperate and sweaty and not at my best. Because you didn't stare at my chest even though I was basically naked. Because you talked to me like a person, not a potential conquest or a midlife crisis. Because when I said something inappropriate, you set a boundary instead of taking advantage. Her hand came up, hovering near my face but not quite touching. Because I haven't felt this attracted to someone in years, and I'm tired of pretending I follow all the rules. Because you said I could call you for any reason, and this is a reason, I'm covered in sweat and smell like refrigerant. I don't care. This is a terrible idea. I know. We stood there, inches apart. This was wrong. So wrong. But she was looking at me like I was the answer to a question she'd been asking. If we do this, I said slowly, we need to be clear. You're not my HVAC guy anymore. You're a man I invited here with a fake excuse because I wanted to see you. She touched my face. Is that clear enough? Yeah. And for the record, I like the way you smell. I kissed her. Or she kissed me. Suddenly we were pressed together, her back against the closet door, my hands in her hair, her robe coming loose. Bedroom, she breathed. Are you sure? She pulled back to look at me. Ryan, I made up an AC problem to get you here. Yes, but she didn't move toward the bedroom, just looked at me, hands on my chest, eyes searching mine. Unless you're not sure, we can stop right here. I can pay you for the service call and you can leave and we can pretend this never happened. I'm sure, I said. This is moving fast. 3 days ago you were a client. Now I'm a woman who made up an emergency to see you again. Her hand slid down to my waist, fingers hooking in my belt loops. Not pulling, just holding. We can slow down. We can just stand here for a minute. Kiss. Talk. Whatever you need. What do you want? Honestly? She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen, not nervous or apologetic. I want you to pick me up and carry me to that bed like in movies. But I also want you to feel okay about this, so we can take our time. So we did. We stood there in the closet doorway, kissing like teenagers, hands exploring but not undressing, building tension until it was almost unbearable. Her lips were soft. She tasted like wine and toothpaste. Her body was warm against mine when I pulled her closer. When I finally did pick her up and she gasped, legs wrapping around my waist, laugh breathless in my ear, it felt earned. Like we'd waited exactly as long as we needed to. I woke at 6 a.m. to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and Diane's arm draped across my chest. For a moment, I just lay there, trying to remember the last time I'd woken up next to someone. 2 years? 3? The loft looked different in daylight, softer, more lived in. Paintings everywhere, books stacked on shelves and coffee tables, a whole life I knew nothing about. A life I'd just walked into and changed without really meaning to. Diane stirred beside me, opened her eyes. Hi. That wasn't a dream? Good. She stretched, completely unself-conscious about being naked. Coffee? Or do you have to rush off to a service call? I should probably go, I said, even though I didn't want to. Or you could stay for coffee. Maybe breakfast. She propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at me. Unless this was a one-time thing for you, which is fine. I just need to know. I don't know what this was. Me neither. But I'd like to figure it out over coffee. If you're willing, I was willing. We sat at her kitchen island in t-shirts and underwear. She'd lent me one of her oversized art gallery shirts. She poured coffee from an espresso machine that probably cost more than my rent, made scrambled eggs that somehow tasted better than any I'd ever made myself. We ate in comfortable silence, just the sounds of forks on plates and distant traffic. "So," she said, "I made up an AC problem because I wanted to see you and I'm apparently terrible at normal dating." "You did. Are you mad?" Confused, flattered. I drank coffee, but wondering why you didn't just call, ask me to dinner. I was scared. What if you said no? What if I'd misread everything? At least with a fake AC problem, I had plausible deniability. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Last night. Was that just physical?" "I was attracted to you from the first call. But I don't do this. I don't sleep with clients. It's a rule." "But you broke it." "Yeah. Because you made up an AC problem to see me again. Because that's either crazy or brave. And I respect both. Because I haven't stopped thinking about you either." She smiled. "So, what now?" "I have 3 service calls today. You have a job. Art gallery. I'm the owner. I can be late." She came around the island. "Can I see you again?" "Properly. Like a date." "Yeah. Dinner tomorrow." I left smelling like her shower. My first customer grinned. "Rough night?" Something like that. That would change everything. I just didn't know it yet. Dating Diane was different from anything I expected. She was confident, direct, unapologetic. No games. No testing. No wondering where I stood. If she wanted to see me, she called. If she was thinking about me, she said so. It was refreshing and terrifying in equal measure. We fell into a rhythm over the next few weeks, dinner twice weekly at places she chose because I didn't know the good restaurants in her part of town. Me staying over when I wasn't too exhausted from 14-hour days crawling through attics. Her showing up at my queen's apartment with takeout and wine when I had early morning calls. Curling up on my second-hand couch like it was as comfortable as her designer furniture. "You could decorate," she said one night, looking around my bare walls. "Some art. Maybe a plant that isn't already dead." "I'm never here long enough to see it," I said. "That's exactly my point." But she didn't push. Not then. She was good about not pushing. Most of the time. But there were complications that grew like cracks in concrete, small at first, easy to ignore, until suddenly they weren't. "Your hands," she said one night, 3 weeks in. We were lying in her bed emperor size, probably cost more than my van, and her fingers traced the cuts and calluses on my palms like she was reading Braille. "They're always torn up. Every time I see you, there's a new cut. Occupational hazard. Sheet metal's sharp. Compressor fins are sharper. Does it hurt?" "Not really. I'm used to it." I flexed my hand, felt the familiar tightness of healing cuts and old scars layered like a topographic map. My dad's hands looked the same. His dad's too, probably. Family tradition. She brought my hand to her lips, kissed each scar gently, deliberately, like she could heal them with attention. "I worry about you. Crawling through attics in this heat." I looked it up. It was 95 degrees yesterday. That means it was over 130 in those attics. You could get heat stroke. You could fall through insulation. The articles I read were terrifying. "You Googled HVAC safety hazards?" I Googled, "Why is my boyfriend always injured and exhausted?" The results were concerning. "It's the job. But you have an engineering degree. You could do something else." I pulled my hand away. "Diane, I'm just saying, I know what you're saying, that I should get a real job. That's not. It's what everyone means. My dad built this business from nothing. When he couldn't run it anymore, I took over because it meant something. I'm not criticizing your work. I'm saying you're working yourself to death. I can see it. I care about you, and I want you to be okay." "I am okay. Are you?" I didn't have an answer. The conversation ended in careful silence. But the tension lingered, and there were other complications that crept in slowly, accumulating like water damage you don't notice until the ceiling caves in. The age thing people noticed. We'd walk into a restaurant and I'd see the quick assessment. Her expensive clothes, my work-calloused hands, her confidence, my uncertainty about which fork to use. How old is he? What's someone like her doing with someone like him? At her gallery opening, I felt every look. Artists and collectors and people who said things like the negative space interrogates the viewer's assumptions. I stood there in my only suit, 10 years old, bought for a funeral drinking wine that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. One woman, perfectly highlighted hair, designer dress, cornered me by the wine table. "So you're Diane's new man," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. How refreshing. She always dated such stuffy art world types. "You're very different." I'll take that as a compliment. "Oh, it is," but her tone said otherwise. "And what do you do?" "HVAC repair. Heating, ventilation, air conditioning." "How practical." She sipped her wine. "Well, I'm sure Diane appreciates having someone around who can fix things. So handy." She drifted away before I could respond, leaving me standing there feeling like I'd just been politely insulted. Diane found me later. "What happened?" I told her. "I'm sorry. Some of these people are snobs. Maybe they're right. Don't. You fix things that matter. You help people. But I don't fit here. In your world, fuck my world." She said it loud enough that a few people turned to look. She didn't care. Didn't lower her voice. Fuck these people and their opinions. You fix things that matter. You help people when they're desperate at midnight. You work harder than anyone in this room. You fit with me. That's all that matters. Can you accept that? I'm trying. Good. Now ignore them and dance with me. There's no music playing, but I don't care. She pulled me onto the empty gallery floor, and we slow danced while pretentious people pretended not to stare. Her arms around my neck, mine around her waist, swaying to silence. And for a moment, it felt like maybe she was right. Maybe it was enough. But later, driving home in my van while she took an Uber back to the loft because showing up together and leaving together would have been too much, she'd said I couldn't shake the feeling that I was swimming in water that was way too deep, that eventually I'd run out of energy and sink, and she'd realize she deserved someone who could keep up with her world instead of always playing catch-up. And the class thing. Diane lived in a renovated loft worth more than I'd make in 10 years, owned an art gallery, had a college savings fund for a daughter I hadn't met yet who was at Yale studying art history. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens with thin walls and a landlord who ignored repair requests. I drove a van with my business logo, spray painted on the side. I counted every dollar and still came up short most months. "Does it bother you?" I asked one night after she'd casually mentioned a vacation house in Vermont like it was the most normal thing in the world. "That I'm not at your level?" "My level?" She looked genuinely confused. "Ryan, what are you talking about?" "You know what I mean. Money. Career. You have a vacation house. I have a studio apartment and student loans I'm still paying off at 33. And?" She set down her wine glass. "You think that matters to me?" "It matters to everyone. Not to me." She came around the counter, stood between my knees. "I know you work hard. I know you took care of your father when he got sick and needed you. I know you took over a failing business because it was the right thing to do. I know you show up for strangers at midnight because they need help and you won't let them suffer." She touched my face. "That's a better measure of a person than their bank account or their zip code. But people talk. Let them. I'm 46. I spent 20 years caring what people thought. It got me divorced and lonely. So, no, I don't care anymore. The question is, do you?" I wanted to say no, but the truth was more complicated. I was starting to care a lot. The heat wave broke in September. My phone stopped ringing constantly. I finally had time to breathe, to realize how exhausted I was. "Take a vacation," Diane suggested at my apartment. "We could go somewhere." "I can't afford a vacation." "Then let me pay." "Why not?" "Because I'm not your charity case, Diane." She set down her wine. "That's not what I meant. But that's what it feels like. You're always offering to pay, always suggesting I change careers, always treating me like I need fixing. I'm trying to help. I don't need help. I need you to respect what I do. Even if it's killing you, it's not." "Ryan, I watched you fall asleep standing up last week. You have bruises on your knees. You're 33 and move like you're 50. Her voice cracked. "I love you, okay? And I'm watching you destroy yourself for a business that barely breaks even. I love you." First time either of us said it. "You love me," I repeated. "Yeah, but you don't love what I do." "That's not fair." "It's true though, isn't it?" You love the idea of me, but want me to be someone different. Someone with a desk job and clean hands. I want you to be someone who doesn't collapse from exhaustion. If it means giving up the business, yes. She stood. You know what? I'm done arguing. You want to work yourself to death? Fine. But don't expect me to watch. She left. And I let her. 2 weeks of silence. 2 weeks of working too much and trying not to think about her. I thought I'd made the right choice. I was wrong about that too. My phone rang at 2 a.m. Sunday. Diane's number. AC's making noise again, she said. Voice rough, like she'd been crying. Diane, I'm serious this time. Grinding, banging. I'll be there in 30 minutes. The loft was warm. Diane answered in a t-shirt and shorts. Eyes red. The unit was making horrible grinding noise. I killed the power. Opened the panel. Fan blades had come loose. When did this start? 2 hours ago? I worked in silence. 15 minutes, then powered it up. Smooth. No grinding. Fixed. Thank you. Diane. I'm sorry. We both said at the same time. You first, I said. I'm sorry for pushing. For trying to change you. For not respecting your work. I was treating you like a project. I'm sorry too. For being defensive. For not hearing what you were saying. You weren't wrong. I am working too hard. I just didn't know how to admit it. So what do? I hired someone. A kid from HVAC school. Starts Monday. Less money for a while. But it means I can have a life. Maybe that vacation. She smiled. Yeah? Yeah. If you'll still have me. I've spent 2 weeks miserable without you. Even though I'm stubborn and smell like refrigerant, especially because of that. I love you. All of you. I love you too, even when you're pushy. Overbearing? In the best way. She kissed me, and it felt like coming home. So, she said, did you really fix my AC? Or is this going to be recurring? It's fixed. But feel free to call anyway. Even if there's no emergency, especially then. We ended up in her bed. Windows open to September breeze. Hey, Diane? Yeah? Thank you for calling me that first night. Even if it was just about the AC? She laughed. It was never just about the AC. I know. But thank you anyway. Thank you for showing up. And for staying. They say you can't choose who you love. That the heart wants what it wants, regardless of logic or convention. I never believed that thought love was something you could control. Keep within appropriate boundaries. Then a woman called me at midnight because her air conditioner broke, and everything I thought I knew turned out to be wrong. It's been 8 months since that first call. 8 months of learning to navigate a relationship that doesn't fit society's neat categories. Diane's friends still make comments about the age gap. My family doesn't quite understand what a gallery owner sees in a guy who crawls through attics. Her ex sent a lawyer's letter about appropriate role models for their daughter. My business insurance went up when they found out I was dating a client. Real consequences. The kind you can't fix, with a wrench and a replacement part. But here's what I've learned. Some things are worth the complications. Some people are worth crossing lines you swore you'd never cross. Sometimes the risk of losing everything is less frightening than losing someone who sees you, really sees you, and chooses you anyway. Diane still calls when her AC makes noise. Sometimes there's actually a problem. Sometimes she just wants me over. I've learned to stop asking which. I hired 2 more technicians. The business is growing. I sleep more than 4 hours now. My hands still get cut, but less often. Diane still worries, but she's learned to trust I know my limits. Her daughter came home from Yale for Thanksgiving. We met. She asked about my long-term career goals. Diane kicked her under the table. Later, the daughter said she approved not because of my job, but because she'd never seen her mother this happy. That's the thing about crossing boundaries. Sometimes you find out they were arbitrary all along. Sometimes the rules we follow are just guidelines written by people too afraid to color outside the lines. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying everyone should fake AC emergencies to seduce their repair person. Please don't. It's terrible for business. But I am saying this. If someone looks at you with your hands covered in refrigerant and sees something worth taking a risk for, if someone is willing to make up emergencies just to see you again, maybe that's worth examining. Maybe that's worth the complications and judgment and insurance premium increases. Maybe love isn't about finding someone who fits perfectly into your existing life. Maybe it's about finding someone who makes you want to rebuild your life to make room for them. Diane's AC is running perfectly these days. No weird noises, no grinding, no emergencies. But I still show up at midnight sometimes. Because she calls. Because I answer. Because some boundaries, once crossed, lead you exactly where you're supposed to be. And because, after all this time, I still like the way she looks at me when I walk through her door like I'm not just an HVAC guy, but the person she's been waiting for. That's worth more than all the properly functioning air conditioners in the world.